I never thought a knock on my bookstore door could change my life. But when a terrified, homeless teen showed up claiming to be my granddaughter, everything I believed about family, trust, and love was about to be turned upside down. And then, my son walked back into our lives, and he wasn't coming to apologize. Hey friends, if you're loving this story and want to join our little family here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I promise, there's so much more drama, emotion, and heartwarming stories coming your way, and I wouldn't want you to miss a single moment. You all mean the world to me, and every like, comment, and share keeps our story circle alive. I never thought my life would feel so empty. Every morning, I'd open the doors of my little bookstore in Charleston, South Carolina, watch the sunlight hit the dusty shelves and feel nothing, just the echo of memories and the quiet hum of loneliness. My husband had been gone for years, my son barely in touch, and my life had become a rhythm of solitude. I smiled at customers, sure, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach my eyes. Then, one rainy Thursday morning, everything changed. I was sorting through a stack of returned books when I heard a soft cough near the entrance. I looked up and froze. A girl. She couldn't have been older than 16, maybe 17, soaked to the bone, her backpack hanging by a frayed strap. She had this haunted look in her eyes, like she'd seen more storms than I'd weathered in my entire life. "Excuse me, do you need any help?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Her words trembled. She looked like she was about to vanish into the rain if I ignored her. I swallowed the lump in my throat and shook my head. Well, we could always use a hand putting books back. Her face lit up, a flicker of hope breaking through the shadow. She introduced herself as Emily, but something in the way she looked at me made me pause. There was a familiarity, though I couldn't place it. She didn't have a home, she said. She didn't have much at all. And yet, when she handled the books, there was this care, this gentle precision, like she was handling something sacred. Over the next few days, she kept coming back. Rain or shine, she appeared at the little bookstore door, shy but determined. I started noticing little things, how she remembered which books went where, how she could talk for hours about stories she loved. And slowly, my lonely mornings started feeling lighter. Her laughter was tentative at first, but I caught it once, clear and musical, and my chest ached. I hadn't realized how starved I was for connection until I heard it. Then came the twist that made my heart stop. One afternoon, as we were organizing a pile of old family memoirs, she stumbled across a photograph tucked in a book I had forgotten I even owned. It was faded, sepia-toned, but the faces were unmistakable. My son and a young woman I hadn't seen in years. The girl in the photo had her mother's eyes, the same eyes staring at me across the dusty shelves. My hands trembled. I felt my pulse spike as I whispered, "Where did you get this?" Emily hesitated, biting her lip. I don't know, it was just in the book." Her voice cracked, and suddenly I realized I couldn't let this go. I had to know. Something about her, something about that photo, it was too much of a coincidence. That night I sat staring at the picture. Memories came flooding back. My son's laughter, the woman I had once loved, promises broken, goodbyes I thought I'd buried. And then it hit me. Could it be? Could this girl really be connected to my son, to a past I had tried to forget? I didn't sleep a wink that night, haunted by the possibility that life had handed me a second chance I never expected. Emily's face kept floating in my mind. Those eyes, I knew them somewhere deep inside, and my heart screamed that this wasn't just chance. I woke up with a decision. Tomorrow, I would ask her something I'd been afraid to even think. I had to know the truth about her. But little did I know, asking that question would start a chain of events that would turn my quiet, lonely life upside down, and not all of it would be easy to handle. And it all started with one question: who really is Emily? The next day, I confronted her about the photo, and the truth she revealed made my heart stop in a way I could never have imagined. The next morning, I braced myself. Emily was already at the counter, her eyes wide, fingers fiddling nervously with the strap of her backpack. I swallowed the lump in my throat and slid the old photograph across the table toward her. "Emily, do you know who this is?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. She froze, staring at the faded image, her lips parted, then quivered. I think so," she whispered. "That's my mom." My chest tightened. "Your mom," I echoed, leaning closer. Who's your dad? Her gaze dropped and she fiddled with her fingers. I don't really know, she said, almost like she was afraid to say it. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Something in the way she said it, the hesitation, the fear, it all pointed to one possibility I'd long buried. I took a deep breath. Emily, do you know my son, Chris? Her head snapped up and her eyes went wide, almost like she'd seen a ghost. Chris, you mean your son, Chris? I think, oh no, I mean yes, she stammered. I think he's my dad. My heart skipped a beat. No, this couldn't be real, could it? I had imagined losing my son in all sorts of ways, but I never thought this. My granddaughter right here in front of me, lost, scared, and alone. I had to know for sure. I guided her gently to the corner table, pulled out a DNA kit I once joked about never using, and said, "We'll just confirm it, okay? No guessing, no pretending." Emily nodded, swallowing hard, tears pooling in her eyes. The tension was unbearable and the room felt smaller, like it was closing in around us. She took a deep breath, handed me the swab, and whispered, I've wanted to know for so long." 2 weeks later, the results came back. My hands shook as I read the words, confirmed. Emily is Chris's daughter. I collapsed into the chair, relief and shock colliding in a mess of emotions. Emily looked at me, her expression a mix of hope and terror. So, that means I have family. I reached out and pulled her into a hug. Yes, you have family, I whispered, but my voice was thick. I felt tears sting the corners of my eyes, but then came the shadow I'd feared, the fear of what Chris might do now. I tried to prepare Emily gently. Listen, your dad, he's complicated. He hasn't been around, and I'm not sure he's ready to be a dad, but we'll figure this out together. Her small shoulders shook against me. I just wanted someone to care, she murmured. I've been on my own for so long, I didn't think anyone would ever see me. I held her tighter, heart aching. You're not alone anymore, not ever again. Over the next few days, Emily started working at the bookstore, helping me with organizing, recommending books to customers, even teaching me a few things I'd long forgotten about reading lists for teens. She had a spark I hadn't seen in years, and I felt this fierce urge to protect her, to guide her, to make sure the world didn't break her before I could. But just as I started to think life might finally be kind again, a shadow of the past lurked closer than I could have imagined. One evening, as Emily and I closed up the store, I noticed a sleek car pull up across the street. A man stepped out, tall, confident, and the kind of smile that once charmed everyone but hid something dangerous underneath. My breath caught. It was Chris. I wanted to warn Emily, to hide her, but something told me he was about to shake both our lives in ways we weren't ready for. And that's when Emily looked at me, scared and hopeful at the same time, and whispered, "Is he really my dad?" The moment Chris stepped into the bookstore, Emily's world and mine was about to change forever. But would he be the father she dreamed of, or the danger I feared? Chris walked through the bookstore door like he owned the place, his polished shoes tapping against the wooden floor, and I felt my stomach twist. Emily froze behind me, clutching a stack of books to her chest. He looked older, yes, but the arrogance, the same self-assured grin from the old photos, was all there. "Mom," he said, glancing at me with that casual, almost smug tone. "I got your message." I flinched. Message? I hadn't sent anything. Emily peeked from behind me, eyes wide, trembling. My heart raced. Could he have just found out somehow? "I think it's time we had a chat," he said, finally noticing Emily. His eyes narrowed, scanning her like she was some puzzle piece he wasn't sure fit. "And you must be." Emily didn't speak. She was frozen, her lips quivering. I placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, squeezing it. "This is Emily," I said firmly. "She's my granddaughter." Chris blinked, a pause. Then his grin returned, this time sharper, calculating. "Granddaughter, interesting, I see how that works now." There was no warmth, not even a flicker, just the kind of cold charm that made your skin crawl. Emily's eyes filled with tears. You're my dad," she whispered, voice cracking. He shrugged casually. "Technically, yes, but I've got a life, you know. Things have happened." His words dripped with excuses. I wanted to yell, to shake him and demand he understand what years of absence had done to her. But I kept calm for Emily. "I've been alone my whole life," she said, voice breaking, "and now I thought maybe you'd care. But you don't even look." Her hands dropped, limp at her sides. Chris stepped closer and I bristled instinctively. Something about him unsettled me. He wasn't here for a hug or to catch up. No, he was here to test us, see if we'd bend to his charm. "Look, kid, I can be around if you want, but I've got responsibilities. Money, work." His tone made it clear. He saw her as a situation, not a daughter. I felt a rage I hadn't known in years. My son, my own blood, was standing there, dismissing Emily, pretending he had choices. And Emily, my poor Emily, looking for the family she deserved and seeing the same selfishness that abandoned her before. I stepped forward, placing myself between them. "She doesn't need your approval," I said, voice steady but firm. "She's not some experiment for you to try on. She's family, whether you like it or not." Chris laughed, sharp and almost cruel. "Family? After all these years? Come on, Mom, don't tell me you've been holding the fort for her too." Emily's eyes welled up. She whispered, "Mom, I mean Grandma, what's happening?" I knelt down to her level. "I've got you. No matter what he does or says, I promise." Chris's smirk faltered slightly. I caught that flicker. He wanted leverage, maybe emotional, maybe financial, but he hadn't accounted for the bond Emily and I had already built. A bond stronger than his absence, stronger than his charm. But I knew this was just the beginning. Chris would push. He would try to manipulate. And I had to be ready for Emily, for myself, for the years we were about to fight for. I took a deep breath and told him firmly, "If you're here to hurt her, to confuse her, you'll leave today. This bookstore, this home, this is ours." Chris's lips curled into that sly smile again, like he already had a plan. I felt my stomach drop. He wasn't going to walk away quietly. Not him. And just like that, the quiet life I had started to rebuild shattered. Chris isn't just visiting, he's scheming. But what he doesn't know is that Emily and I are ready to fight back. The question is, will he leave before it's too late, or will his selfishness destroy everything we've built? Chris lingered in the bookstore longer than I expected. He wandered the aisles like he owned the place, eyes scanning every corner, hands brushing over the bookshelves, and I could feel Emily shrinking behind me. I hated seeing that fear in her eyes. She had survived on the streets, battled loss, and now here she was, face to face with a man who had abandoned her. "Look, Emily," he said, finally crouching down near her level, his voice softening. "I know I missed a lot, but maybe we can start over." I felt my stomach twist. Start over? After years of absence? After her mother's death, after her homelessness, after everything she'd endured? My heart ached for her. "Don't let him fool you," I whispered gently, gripping her hand. "He hasn't been here for you. He doesn't know what it means to care." Emily's small voice trembled. "But maybe he wants to try." I sighed. I wanted her to hope. I wanted her to believe in family. But I also had to protect her from disappointment, from the kind of heartbreak that leaves scars. "Sometimes people say the right words, but it's the actions that matter," I told her. "And right now, actions speak louder than words." Chris smiled again, like he'd read my thoughts. "You don't trust me. Fine, but I've got resources, Emily, opportunities. Maybe I can help you publish your writing, get your life on track." I froze. Did he really think money and influence could replace the years of absence? Did he really think a few offers would make her forgive him? Emily looked uncertain, the spark of hope battling the fear in her eyes. I could see the inner struggle. She wanted a dad, a real one, but she'd already learned not to expect it. "Emily," I said softly, "he's not offering you love. He's offering leverage." Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, I don't know what to do. I don't want to push him away if he's trying." I pulled her into a hug. "Honey, listen to me. We don't have to figure that out today. We've got time. And we'll decide together how to handle him." Chris watched us, his grin tight, calculating. I could see it. He wasn't here for Emily's happiness. He was sizing up the situation, trying to find the angle that benefited him most. And I knew we couldn't let him manipulate her. The next few days were tense. Chris called constantly, dropped by unannounced, tried to charm her with gifts and promises, each one thinner than the last. I caught him once whispering something about long-term plans to Emily, and I knew immediately he was trying to use her. One evening, as we closed the bookstore, Emily finally spoke up, her voice shaky but determined. "Grandma, I think he's just using me. I don't want him to. I don't want to be tricked into believing he cares." My heart swelled with pride. "That's right, sweetheart. You're stronger than he thinks, and you're not alone anymore." We stood together, side by side, watching him leave for the night, his car disappearing down the street. Relief washed over me, but I knew it was only temporary. Chris wasn't finished. He would be back, testing our patience, trying to break us down piece by piece. I felt a fierce protective fire rise inside me. I had survived loneliness, heartbreak, and disappointment, and I wouldn't let him hurt Emily, not now, not ever. She had finally found safety, love, and hope, and I wasn't going to let some selfish, absent father take that away. But deep down, I knew the worst was still ahead. Chris wasn't just a visitor in our lives. He was a storm gathering on the horizon, and storms don't announce themselves before they hit. Chris has a plan, and it's more dangerous than we realized. Emily's trust, our bond, everything we've built could be on the line. Will we survive his next move, or will he tear our lives apart? A week later, Chris made his move. He didn't come barging in this time. Oh no, he was subtle, sly, like a cat circling its prey. He sent Emily an email with a subject line that made my chest tighten. "A chance you can't ignore." She opened it hesitantly, eyes scanning the words. It's a publishing opportunity," she whispered, and for a moment I could see the flicker of hope ignite in her. The words were carefully chosen. "I want to help you. Your talent shouldn't go unnoticed. We can be a family again." I felt my stomach twist. Classic move. He knew she'd been writing, knew this was something she'd been dreaming of, and now he was dangling it like a carrot, pretending it came from a place of care. I took her hand, pulling her gently away from the screen. Emily read between the lines. He's offering opportunity, yes, but what's the cost? Her brows furrowed. Cost? Grandma, he's my dad. Maybe he really wants to help this time. I sighed, feeling the weight of it all. Honey, sometimes people use kindness as a trap. Remember how he left you before. Do you really think that changed? She bit her lip, torn. I could see the inner battle waging. Hope battling experience, longing battling self-preservation. My heart ached because I knew that ache all too well. I had felt it when my son first disappeared, and now it was playing out in her, my granddaughter, my responsibility. Chris's timing was cruel. Emily had just finished her first draft of a manuscript, a story drawn straight from her life. It was raw, powerful, and vulnerable, and now he was swooping in with promises of fame and support. "I don't know," she whispered. "Maybe if he helps, it could be." "No," I interrupted firmly, gripping her shoulders. "It could be a trap. You've worked so hard, Emily. You've built this life with your own strength. Don't let him turn it into a transaction for him." Her eyes filled with tears. I wanted him to care. I wanted a dad. My chest constricted. I wanted to hold her, to tell her it was okay to hope, but I also had to anchor her in reality. "I know, sweetheart, I know. But sometimes love isn't found in the people who share your blood. It's found in the people who show up, who protect you, who stand by you. And that's us." Emily nodded slowly, sniffing, wiping her cheeks. "Grandma, I guess you're right. I don't want to be used, not again." That night we stayed late in the bookstore, talking, laughing quietly to ease the tension. She read me lines from her manuscript, and for the first time in days, I saw her light up again, not with hope for a father, but with pride in herself. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Chris's shadow was still hovering over us. He wasn't finished. I could feel it. He was patient, cunning, and he had plans that I hadn't even begun to imagine. Emily curled up on the couch with her notebook, exhausted but smiling, and I whispered softly, "We'll get through this, Emily. I promise. No one's taking your light away." Outside, the streetlights flickered against the dark sky. Somewhere out there, Chris was plotting. And I knew, deep down, that the next time he stepped inside this bookstore, it wouldn't be subtle. It would be a storm. Chris is no longer just visiting, he's scheming. And his next move could change everything we've built. Will Emily's trust survive, or will he manipulate his way back into her life? The next morning, I was stacking books when Emily burst into the back room, her face pale and eyes wide. "Grandma, he's here," she whispered, almost too scared to breathe. I froze, my chest tightened. I hadn't expected him to show up so soon, but of course, Chris wasn't one to wait patiently. He wanted to push boundaries, and he wanted to see how far he could get before we resisted. We stepped out together, and there he was leaning casually against the counter, that same smug grin plastered across his face. He held a coffee in one hand, the other resting on a stack of his own fancy papers. "Morning," he said cheerily, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't abandoned her for years. "I thought we should talk about your future." Emily flinched, and I could feel the tension radiating off her. She wanted to say yes, wanted to trust him, but something told me she already knew deep down that this wasn't about love, it was about control. I stepped forward, placing myself between them. "Chris, this isn't the time," I said firmly. "Emily doesn't owe you anything. You've had years to step up, and you chose not to." He laughed softly, almost a sneer. "Come on, Mom, don't make me out to be the villain. I'm offering her opportunities. She could be big, famous, and you know it. You're holding her back." I felt my blood boil. "Opportunities? You mean manipulating her, using her as leverage for your ego and your business schemes. She's not a tool, Chris. Not for you, not for anyone." Emily's small voice trembled, but she finally spoke. "Dad, I don't want to be used. I don't want to be a project. I just want someone to care about me." Chris's face softened for a second, but I knew it was fake. That flicker of charm was his weapon. And Emily had to see through it. I knelt beside her, gripping her hands. "You're stronger than him, Emily. You've been through more than most kids your age. You're not his puppet, and you never will be." He smirked, his confidence unshaken. "Strong, huh? That's cute. But you don't get it. Sometimes life isn't fair. She could have everything she dreams of, and I'm just offering it." I couldn't hold back any longer. Emily has everything she needs already. She has love, protection, and a family that actually shows up. You wouldn't know what that feels like. Chris's smirk faltered for just a moment. He wasn't used to resistance, especially not from me, but his pride quickly reasserted itself. "Fine, you two are stubborn, but this isn't over. I'll be back." And just like that, he walked out, leaving a trail of tension and dread in his wake. Emily slumped against me, trembling. "Grandma, I thought he cared," she whispered. I hugged her tightly, letting her cry, letting the tears release the fear and confusion she'd carried for years. "He doesn't," I murmured. "And now you know. We'll handle him together, every step of the way." Later that night, I watched her curled up with her manuscript, still shaking but determined. She was growing stronger, learning that love isn't always in the person with the same last name. It's in the people who fight for you, who show up, who protect you. But deep down, I knew Chris's next move would be worse. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was a threat. And if we weren't careful, he could undo everything we had worked so hard to build. Chris isn't finished, and this time, his plan isn't just words, it's a direct threat. Can Emily and I survive his next move, or will it change our lives forever? A few days later, the tension hit a breaking point. I was sorting through some new shipments of books when Emily ran in, eyes wild and voice trembling. "Grandma, he called me. He wants me to meet him tonight. Alone." My stomach dropped. Alone? No, absolutely not. I could feel the panic rise, but I knew I had to stay calm for Emily. "Emily, you cannot go," I said firmly, gripping her shoulders. "He's testing you. He's not here to care. He's here to manipulate." She shook her head, tears brimming. "But he says it's important. He says he wants to explain everything. Grandma, what if he really wants to be a dad?" I sighed, my heart aching. "Sweetheart, sometimes people say things they do mean. Sometimes they use words to get what they want. Remember what I told you, actions speak louder than words. And his actions so far, they've only hurt you." Emily's hands trembled as she hugged herself. I could see her longing, the tiny flicker of hope she had buried deep inside. I wanted someone to care," she whispered. I felt tears sting my eyes. "I know, baby, I know. And I promise you are cared for, you are loved. Not by him, but by me, and we'll figure out how to keep you safe." We spent the day barricading our little routines, talking through every possible scenario. But I knew Chris wouldn't wait forever. He was clever, patient, and cunning. He would try to get to her if I let him. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Charleston skyline, Emily got a text from him. "Don't be afraid, just come. I want to explain." My chest tightened. I swallowed hard. This was the moment we'd been preparing for, and I could feel the storm rolling in. "Emily," I said softly, kneeling in front of her, "he's not explaining anything. He's setting a trap. We cannot let him manipulate you like this. You have a choice, walk away." Her lower lip quivered, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. She wanted to believe him. She wanted a dad. But she had already begun to realize that hope could be dangerous if it came from the wrong person. "Grandma, can I just text him back?" she asked quietly, just to see. I took a deep breath. I didn't want to be the kind of person who controlled her every move, but I also knew we were playing a dangerous game. "You can," I said carefully, "but you do it with your eyes wide open. And you promise me you don't go alone, ever." Emily nodded, trembling. I held her hands and whispered, "No matter what happens, I've got you, always." She walked into her room, phone in hand, and I could hear her soft voice texting, unsure, nervous, but determined to navigate this on her own terms. My heart thumped in my chest. I couldn't stop Chris from trying, but I could prepare Emily for what was coming. Hours later, I stayed awake, packing the bookstore, listening for every sound. When the phone buzzed, Emily ran to me, eyes wide, voice shaking. "Grandma, he's lying. Everything he said, it's all lies. He just wanted me to meet him tonight so he could convince me to give him my story, my money, everything." My heart sank. Of course, that's exactly what I feared. He had tried to manipulate her exactly as I predicted. But this time, she saw through it. I pulled her into a tight hug. "You did exactly the right thing, Emily. You trusted your instincts. That's real strength." But I knew one thing for certain. Chris wasn't finished. He was calculating, and the next move he made could be more dangerous than anything so far. Chris is escalating. He's no longer just a threat. He's desperate, and his next move could destroy everything Emily and I have fought for. Will we survive his next step, or is the storm about to hit? The next morning, I was arranging a new display of books when Emily came running to me, her face pale, eyes wide with panic. "Grandma, he's here, at the bookstore." My stomach dropped. Chris had crossed the line. This wasn't subtle anymore. He wasn't sending emails or calling. He was showing up in person, trying to intimidate, to push his way back into our lives. I took her hand firmly. "Emily, stay calm. Stay right here. I'm going to handle this." We stepped into the front area together, and there he was, leaning against the counter like he owned the place, that same smug grin plastered on his face. "Morning," he said smoothly, as if nothing was wrong. "I thought we could talk about your future, Emily." Emily shrank behind me, clutching her notebook to her chest. I could see her shaking, trying not to cry. I felt a fierce protective surge. Not this time, not here. Chris's eyes flicked to me, his smirk widening. "You've built quite a little fortress here, haven't you? But maybe it's time to open it up, let me in. She could have everything, success, fame, I can give her that." I stepped forward, voice steady but sharp. "Emily doesn't need you to give her anything. She has talent, drive, and a family that actually shows up. You're not giving her love, you're trying to control her." Chris leaned closer, voice low, almost threatening. "Control? Mom, come on, you're overreacting. I'm just trying to help my kid." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want your help. I don't want to be a tool for you." I pulled her into my arms, letting her cry, letting the emotions she'd carried for years pour out. "You're not a tool, Emily, and you never will be. You're strong, smart, and you can stand on your own. He's not going to take that away from you." Chris straightened, his grin twisting into something colder. "Fine, but you're making this harder than it needs to be. One day she'll realize I was right, and when that happens..." I cut him off, voice firm. Not if I can help it. You're done here. Leave now. He hesitated, glancing at Emily, then back at me. I could see the gears turning in his mind. He was trying to figure out another angle, but I wasn't giving him any opening. This is your last warning, Chris. Walk away. He backed off finally, muttering something under his breath, and left, slamming the door behind him. Emily buried her face into my chest, shaking. Grandma, I thought he might. I held her tighter. SHH, it's over for now. He's gone, and we'll make sure he stays gone. We spent the rest of the day reinforcing boundaries. I made sure the locks were secure, set up alerts on the phone, and reminded Emily that no one, especially someone like Chris, would ever make her feel unsafe again. Later, I watched her sit at the counter, scribbling in her notebook. She was exhausted but determined, pouring everything she felt into her writing. That was her power, her words, her stories, her strength, and no one could take that away from her. But I knew deep down Chris wouldn't quit. He was calculating, patient, and desperate. The next time he made a move, it wouldn't be subtle. And that time he could be dangerous, not just emotionally, but in ways I hadn't yet imagined. Chris's next move is coming, and this time it's not just words. Emily's life, our safety, and everything we've built could be at risk. Will we survive his next attack, or is the storm finally hitting? It happened late one evening. I was closing the bookstore when Emily tugged at my sleeve, whispering frantically. Grandma, he left something on the porch. My stomach clenched. Chris had crossed the line again. I followed her outside, and there it was, a sleek envelope, heavy and ominous. No stamp, no note inside beyond a single piece of paper. Think carefully before you shut me out. You'll regret it. Emily's hands shook as she held it. Grandma, what does it mean? I swallowed hard, feeling the anger rise in my chest. Chris wasn't just trying to charm or manipulate anymore. He was threatening. It means, I said slowly, that he thinks he can scare you, but we won't let him, not this time. Back inside, I locked the door and sat Emily down at the counter. Listen, I said, voice low but firm. He wants to make you doubt yourself. He wants to make you question if you belong here with me, with your life. Don't let him. He doesn't get to control you. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know if I can fight him, Grandma. He's my dad. Shouldn't I at least listen? I took her hands in mine, squeezing them tightly. You're right that he's your dad by blood, but blood doesn't automatically give him rights to your life. He abandoned you. He tried to use you, and now he's threatening you. That's not a dad. That's someone dangerous. Emily buried her face in her hands. I wanted him to care. I wanted a family. I held her close. And you do have a family, Emily, me, us, this bookstore, your writing. These people, these moments, they're real. Not him, not the man who's only ever hurt you. But even as I reassured her, my mind raced. Chris was calculating. He wouldn't stop. And the fact that he had started leaving threats, subtle but terrifying, meant he was escalating. That night, I sat by the window, watching the empty street, knowing that every shadow could be him, every passing car could be his next move. Emily slept in the next room, exhausted, unaware of how high the stakes had become. I thought of everything she had been through: homelessness, loss, the death of her mother, the foster system, the streets, and I knew we couldn't let him exploit her again. Not now, not ever. And yet, a sick twist of dread settled over me. Chris wasn't just after reconciliation or a photo op. He was scheming. Every charm, every gift, every word of false love had been part of a plan. And now that plan was moving into dangerous territory. I pressed my hand to my forehead, sighing. We had survived so much already. We had rebuilt our little sanctuary here in the bookstore. But Chris was patient, clever, and desperation could make people dangerous. I glanced at Emily's manuscript, still on the counter, the words she had poured her heart into. She had transformed her pain into art, into strength. That strength, her resilience, was our shield, and I knew we had to protect it, no matter what Chris tried next. But as the clock ticked toward midnight, I realized something chilling. Chris wasn't just a storm waiting on the horizon. He was already here, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Chris's threats are escalating, and Emily's safety is now at risk. But what he doesn't know is that we're ready to fight back. Will he succeed, or will our bond finally stop him in his tracks? It was a Thursday evening when things finally reached a breaking point. I was closing up the bookstore, the soft hum of the lights casting shadows across the shelves. Emily was upstairs in the back room, working on her latest manuscript, and I was just about to lock the door when I heard the bell above the entrance jingle. My heart stopped. Chris. I stepped into the main room, and there he was, leaning casually against a shelf like he had every right to be there. That grin of his, it always made my skin crawl, was plastered on his face, but this time it had an edge, sharp and dangerous. "Evening, Mom," he said smoothly, eyes flicking to Emily's notebook on the counter. "Busy little girl tonight, huh? Writing, I hear she's got talent." I felt my chest tighten. "She doesn't need you here, Chris. You're done. This isn't a negotiation. This is a warning." He shrugged, casually strolling closer. "A warning? Come on, Mom, I'm just trying to help. Don't you want her to have the world?" Emily appeared behind me, her face pale but her eyes blazing with a quiet fury. "I don't need anything from you," she said, voice trembling but firm. "I'm done listening to your lies. You left me. You don't get a second chance just because you say so." I felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. She was standing up to him, but I knew how dangerous his manipulations could become. Chris's smile faltered for a brief moment, replaced by a calculating glare. "You think you're smart, huh? You think a little bookstore and a few scribbles in a notebook make you untouchable." Emily didn't back down. "I'm not untouchable, but I'm not your pawn either, and I won't let you control me anymore." He stepped closer, voice low, almost threatening. "Control? I'm just giving her a chance at a life better than this." I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of calm and authority I had. "No, Chris, that's manipulation. You're trying to use her just like before, and I won't let it happen." For a moment, it was silent. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. I could see him weighing his options, his ego, his pride, his desire for control, all flashing across his face. And then he smiled. That fake, confident, utterly wrong smile. "Fine," he said finally, voice tight. "You've got your little fortress here, but this isn't over. I'll be back." He turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him, leaving a silence that made my chest ache. Emily sank against me, trembling, whispering, "Grandma, he's never going to stop." I hugged her tight, letting her cry, letting her release all the fear she'd held inside for years. "We'll handle him," I whispered. "Together, no one is touching what we've built." Later that night, I watched her sit with her manuscript, eyes red but determined. She had faced him head-on and survived. That was a turning point. We knew Chris would try again. He was too cunning, too self-centered to quit. But for the first time, I felt that we were ready. Ready to fight, ready to protect our sanctuary, ready to defend Emily's life and future. But even as I felt that surge of hope, I knew deep down the storm wasn't over. Chris was patient, and his next move could be worse, more manipulative and more dangerous. And we had to be prepared. Chris's next move isn't just words. It's a plan to manipulate Emily in a way that could change everything. Will our bond and resilience be enough to stop him? Or is the danger about to become real and irreversible? It started with a knock. Not the polite kind you expect from a neighbor, but a slow, deliberate, menacing knock that made my heart hammer in my chest. Emily and I froze. Neither of us had invited him in. And yet, Chris was outside, waiting, scheming. I took a deep breath and opened the door just a crack, enough to see his face. That fake charm, that rehearsed grin was there, but his eyes, cold, calculating, told a different story. "Evening," he said smoothly. "Thought I'd drop by. We need to talk." I felt my blood boil, but I forced myself to remain calm. "Chris, this is our home. You're not welcome here without an appointment, and you know it." He tilted his head, that infuriating, smug expression never leaving his face. "Come on, Mom. I'm just here to make things right, to fix things with Emily." Emily stepped out from behind me, her voice steady but firm. "Dad, I don't need fixing. I don't need anything from you. You left me. That's not something you can just fix. His eyes flicked to her manuscript lying on the counter. You've been writing your story. That's impressive. But imagine how far you could go with my help. Fame, money, recognition. Don't you want that? I clenched my fists, trying not to scream. He was baiting her just like I feared. But Emily, she surprised me. I don't want your help, she said firmly. I want a family, but you're not it. You never were. Chris laughed softly, almost mockingly. You really think you can succeed without me, without my guidance? Emily's jaw tightened. I've done more than survive, Dad. I've thrived. And I have people who care about me, people who actually show up. You're not one of them. I could see him falter for the first time. That pride, that confidence wavered just slightly. And then he tried something different. He leaned in, lowering his voice. I've got a deal for you. If you let me back in, I can make your book a bestseller. You won't have to struggle. You won't have to worry about anything ever again. Emily's hands trembled as she held her notebook, but she looked up at me and I nodded. She knew what to do. She was learning to trust herself, to see through the lies. No, she said firmly. I'm done being used. I'm done being manipulated. My story, my life, my choices, they're mine, and you have no part in them anymore. He straightened, lips pressed together, realizing he had been outmaneuvered. For once, Emily's strength and our bond had held him at bay. He stepped back, voice tight, forcing a smile. This isn't over. And just like that, he left, slamming the door behind him. Emily collapsed against me, shaking. Grandma, I thought I might break. I almost believed him. I held her close, feeling the weight of the battle we had just faced. You didn't break, Emily. You're stronger than he ever was, and we're going to keep it that way, together. But even as I felt that fierce pride, I knew deep down that Chris wouldn't stop. The next move he made wouldn't be subtle. It would be calculated, desperate, and potentially dangerous. And when that moment came, we had to be ready. Chris's desperation is reaching a tipping point, and the next encounter will decide everything: Emily's safety, her future, and the life we've built together. Can we finally end his manipulations for good? The air felt electric that morning. I had a sense, deep in my bones, that Chris's next move would be his boldest yet. Emily was beside me, clutching her manuscript, determination radiating from every pore. We both knew this confrontation could define everything: the life we had built, her safety, her confidence, our sanctuary. The doorbell rang. Emily flinched, but I gave her a steadying glance. Stay calm, we're ready. I opened the door. Chris stood there, eyes sharp, posture rigid. Gone was the charming facade, now it was desperation, a man cornered, clinging to control like a lifeline. I told you this isn't over, he said, voice low and urgent. I've been patient, but I won't wait forever. Emily, this could be your big break. You don't have to fight me. Emily stepped forward, spine straight. Dad, this ends now. You've tried to manipulate me, threaten me, use me for your gain. It's over. I won't be part of your schemes anymore. Chris's expression flickered between anger and disbelief. You can't do this. You're mine. You're my daughter. Emily's eyes blazed and my heart swelled with pride. I'm not yours, not the way you think. You abandoned me. You weren't there when it mattered. Being a father isn't about blood, it's about showing up. And you didn't. Grandma did. She does. That's my family. I stepped closer, standing beside her. Emily's right. You've had years to step up, Chris. You didn't. And now we're done giving you chances. If you want a place in her life, it will be earned through respect, honesty, and accountability. Not manipulation, not threats, not lies. He hesitated, and for the first time I saw vulnerability, a crack in his armor. I just wanted to make things right, he said, voice trembling. By threatening her? I asked, voice firm. By leaving notes and showing up uninvited. That's not making things right. That's selfishness. That's control. Emily's hands were steady as she held her manuscript. You could have had a daughter who trusted you, but you chose greed, pride, and fear. That's your choice. I choose me, my life, and the people who love me. Chris's shoulders slumped. For the first time, it was clear he had lost. No charm, no words, no threats could break Emily's resolve. He nodded once quietly, as if admitting defeat, and walked away. The door closed behind him, and Emily let out a shaky laugh, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Grandma, we did it. We really did it." I hugged her tightly, feeling the weight of years, fears, and battles lift. "Yes, baby, we did. You were strong, you were brave, and you never let him win." We spent the day together, organizing the bookstore, laughing, talking, and just being a normal day, but one filled with victory. Emily's writing became more inspired than ever, her confidence radiant. The storm of Chris's manipulations had passed, and we had survived it together. Looking around the bookstore, I realized that this place, our sanctuary, was more than shelves of books. It was a symbol of resilience, of chosen family, of love that outshines blood ties. Emily and I had created a life built on trust, creativity, and protection, and nothing could take that away. That night, as Emily typed the final lines of her new manuscript, I whispered softly, "Family isn't just about who you're related to. It's about who shows up, who believes in you, and who fights for you. And we've got that, baby, always." She smiled up at me, eyes shining. "Always, Grandma, always." We had won, not just over Chris, but over fear, manipulation, and the ghosts of the past. And in that victory, we found something far greater: peace, love, and a future we could finally call our own. Blood doesn't make a family. Love, loyalty, and trust do. Emily's journey from fear to triumph proves that chosen family can heal, protect, and empower, and that sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones we build ourselves. Friends, if you're enjoying this ride with me, subscribe now and tap the bell. I can't wait to share more heart-stopping stories with you. You guys make this so special. Your love and support mean everything.